My brothers and sisters, let me ask you a question that could change the course of your life. What is the best age to get married? Is it when society tells you? Is it when your bank account is overflowing? Or is it when your heart is finally ready to honor the sacred trust of marriage? Too many people are chasing the perfect number, waiting for the perfect moment, and in that delay, they miss out on blessings, protection, and peace. The truth is, it's not about years on a calendar, it's about maturity, faith, and readiness. And once you understand this, you'll see that the best time is not tomorrow, not someday. It's the moment you are truly prepared. When we reflect on the idea of marriage, we begin to realize that it is far more than a milestone. It is a journey of growth, a test of patience, and a means of building a foundation for generations to come. When the first part ended, the focus was on readiness, and this is where the real depth lies. Readiness is not measured by how many degrees you have, how much money sits in your account, or how extravagant your lifestyle looks on social media. Readiness is measured by the condition of your heart, the strength of your faith, and your ability to place someone else's happiness alongside your own. If you can stand up and say, I am willing to give, to forgive, to sacrifice, to lead, to protect, and to nurture, then you are ready. And that readiness can come earlier than expected, or sometimes much later, but it is always guided by divine wisdom. When we think of age, we often treat it as a number that decides everything. But age in reality is a stage of life. There are those in their 20s who carry wisdom like they are in their 40s, and there are those in their 40s who still behave like teenagers. That is why it is not about how many candles are on your birthday cake, but about how much light shines within you. The best age to get married is when that inner light of responsibility, respect, and devotion begins to shine brightly enough to illuminate another person's path. One of the most powerful aspects of marrying young when ready is the chance to grow together. Imagine starting with almost nothing, 2 hearts, 2 dreams, 2 sets of hands, and building a home filled with love, laughter, and the remembrance of Allah. It is not about what you bring materially into the marriage, but about what you bring spiritually and emotionally. If you bring honesty, compassion, and faith, you bring treasures greater than gold. If you bring patience, loyalty, and humility, you bring wealth that cannot be measured. Starting young means shaping each other's outlook, holding hands through mistakes, and creating memories that carry you until old age. At the same time, there are people who marry later in life and find beauty in that as well. They may have faced trials, endured loneliness, or struggled through failed attempts, but when the time arrives, it arrives with wisdom, clarity, and understanding. They bring with them experiences that shape the way they love, the way they care, and the way they protect. Marrying later does not mean missing out. It can mean entering with greater stability and a stronger sense of direction. The blessing is not in when you marry, but in how you honor the marriage once you do. A problem we face in society is that we compare. We compare ourselves to cousins, friends, colleagues, or celebrities. She got married at 22, I must be behind. He got married at 35, maybe I should wait that long. Comparison steals peace and blinds you to your own journey. What you must remember is that your path is written differently. Every delay, every struggle, every moment of waiting carries wisdom, even if it feels painful at the time. Sometimes a delay PER protects you from harm. Sometimes marrying earlier saves you from temptations. Both situations have divine wisdom. Trusting in that wisdom is part of faith. Another misconception is thinking marriage is the end of freedom. People say, let me enjoy life before I get married, as if marriage is a prison. But marriage, when done right, is liberation. It frees you from loneliness, frees you from the cycle of temptation, frees you from selfishness, and frees you from a life of chasing temporary pleasures. It opens the doors to companionship, to legacy, to stability, and to peace of mind. The best age to get married is the age when you realize that what you gain in marriage far outweighs what you think you are giving up. For those who worry that they are too young, reflect on the fact that age does not define maturity. You can be young yet grounded, young yet focused, young yet full of wisdom. If you are sincere and you understand what marriage requires, then you are not too young. You are simply blessed with readiness earlier. For those who fear they are too old, remember that age does not disqualify you. You are never too late for the mercy of Allah. You are never too late to find love, companionship, and stability. The best age is the age Allah chooses for you when your heart is ready, even if society tries to make you feel otherwise. Think of the deeper purpose of marriage. It is not simply to have a partner, but to complete half of your faith. It is to build a family that remembers Allah, to raise children who carry values of goodness, to create a home that becomes a small paradise in this world. The best age to marry is when you can commit to this vision, when you can stand before Allah and say, I am ready to fulfill my duties as a spouse. I am ready to protect someone's dignity. I am ready to be a source of peace and support. That is readiness. Marriage also protects from immorality. We live in a time when temptations are stronger than ever. The eyes are tested, the heart is tested, the desires are tested. Marriage provides a shield, a safe space where love is halal, affection is halal, and companionship is halal. The best age to get married is when you feel the need for that shield, when you recognize that delaying could expose you to what displeases Allah. Protect yourself through what is pure, and do not let the whispers of society delay you unnecessarily. When you step into marriage, remember it is not about what you take, but about what you give. The world teaches us to focus on what will I get from this person. But true success in marriage comes from asking, what can I give to this person? If both spouses give with sincerity, both will receive more than they ever imagined. The best age to marry is the age when you are ready to shift your focus from yourself to someone else, when you are prepared to share your dreams, your time, and your heart. It is also important to remember that marriage is not about finding someone perfect, but about finding someone willing to work towards perfection with you. If you wait for the flawless spouse, you will wait forever. People are human with strengths and weaknesses, virtues and flaws. The beauty of marriage is in embracing those imperfections, in growing together, in supporting each other through shortcomings, and in celebrating each other's strengths. The best age to get married is when you realize this truth and let go of unrealistic expectations. Consider also the role of patience. Marriage will test your patience like nothing else. Living with another human being day in and day out requires tolerance, kindness, and forgiveness. The best age is when you have trained your heart to be patient, when you can control your anger, when you can apologize even when you feel you were not entirely wrong, when you can forgive even when you feel hurt. That level of patience makes any age the right age. When we talk about readiness, financial stability often comes up. While providing is a responsibility, remember that provision is from Allah. Do not delay marriage endlessly waiting to accumulate wealth, because wealth can come later. What matters is that you are willing to strive, to work hard, to put in the effort to provide for your spouse and family. The best age is the one when you trust Allah enough to take the step, knowing He is the provider and you are merely a means. There are people who say, I am waiting until I feel fully prepared. But the truth is, you may never feel 100% ready. Life does not work that way. Sometimes you become ready through the journey itself. Marriage teaches you lessons you cannot learn while single. It shapes you, humbles you, strengthens you, and makes you grow. If you wait for a magical sense of total readiness, you may wait forever. The best age is when you are prepared to begin, even with your imperfections, and allow the journey to refine you. The influence of culture also plays a role. In some places, society pressures young people to marry too soon, before they are truly ready. In other places, it pressures them to delay until they have achieved certain worldly goals. Both extremes are dangerous. Do not let culture dictate your life. Let faith and wisdom guide you. The best age is not what your community insists upon, but what aligns with your own readiness, your faith, and your circumstances. If you think about it, marriage is one of the greatest signs of Allah. Two strangers from different families, different backgrounds, sometimes even different cultures come together and suddenly they become the closest companions. Their lives intertwine, their hearts bond, and their souls find peace. That peace is a gift, and it is available to you when you take the step at the right time. That time is not about number, or else it is about readiness, trust, and divine timing. When the second part ended, we reflected on marriage being a sign of Allah, two strangers becoming companions, and how peace is granted in this sacred bond. From here, it is important to look deeper at why timing matters so much, and why rushing or delaying without wisdom can harm what is meant to be a source of tranquility. Many people ask, should I marry young or should I wait? But the better question is, am I ready to uphold the trust of marriage right now? Because marriage is not just for companionship. It is a trust placed upon your shoulders by Allah. It is an amana, a responsibility, a sacred duty. The beauty of marrying when you are truly ready is that you enter with sincerity. You're not driven by pressure, by competition, or by fear of missing out. You are driven by the intention to please Allah, to protect yourself and your spouse from what is haram, and to build a home that becomes a reflection of faith. The best age to get married is when your heart has this clarity, when your intention is pure, and when your understanding of marriage is aligned with its reality. One of the challenges people face is that they wait for the perfect time. They say, I'll marry once my career is stable, once my bank account is full, once I've seen the world. But life rarely works according to our perfect plans. A career can collapse overnight, money can vanish, health can change, and opportunities can slip away. Marriage, however, can be a source of strength through all of these changes. A spouse is someone who will sit with you when you lose, who will encourage you when you fail, and who will remind you of Allah when you are distracted. If you wait for everything to be perfect, you may lose the chance to have that support when you need it most. At the same time, rushing without thinking can bring hardship. Some people jump into marriage simply because of attraction, pressure, or excitement. They do not pause to ask, am I ready to respect this person? Am I ready to care for them in sickness and in health? Am I ready to forgive when they hurt me and apologize when I hurt them? When these questions are ignored, the marriage becomes shaky. The best age to marry is when you have asked yourself these questions honestly, when you are prepared not only for the sweetness but also for the tests that come with marriage. Consider how marriage shapes character. When single, it is easy to think of yourself first, to prioritize your own comfort, your own desires, your own ambitions. But marriage forces you to think of another person. Suddenly, you cannot just come and go as you please. You cannot just spend without consideration. You cannot just act without consulting. This may feel like restriction to some, but in reality, it is growth. It teaches discipline, empathy, responsibility, and maturity. The best age to marry is when you are ready to accept this growth. When you see it not as a burden, but as a blessing that shapes you into a better human being. Think about the importance of companionship. Every soul craves connection. No matter how independent someone may appear, deep down they long for someone who understands, someone who listens, someone who stands beside them through life's storms. Marriage provides this companionship in a halal way. It protects the heart from loneliness and the soul from wandering. The best age to marry is when you acknowledge this need, when you are ready to give and receive love in a way that is dignified, respectful, and blessed. There are those who fear that marriage will block their ambitions. They think, if I get married now, I won't achieve my goals. But in reality, a supportee. If a spouse can become the wind beneath your wings. Instead of slowing you down, they push you forward. They remind you to strive. They encourage you when you feel weak. And they celebrate your victories with sincerity. Alone, you may achieve something, but together you achieve far more. The best age to marry is when you realize that your dreams are not limited by marriage, but strengthened by it. Marriage is also a test of generosity. Many people are generous with strangers, but stingy with those closest to them. They smile outside, but frown at home. They forgive friends, but hold grudges with their spouse. The true test of your character is how you treat the one who lives with you day and night. Are you gentle with them? Do you speak with kindness? Do you overlook their mistakes? Do you make them feel valued? The best age to marry is when you are ready to pass this test, when you are prepared to be as generous at home as you are outside. It is vital to remember that marriage is not a fairy tale. It is not always romance and ease. There will be disagreements, misunderstandings, and moments of frustration. But these are not signs of failure. They are part of the journey. What matters is how you handle them. Do you argue with respect? Do you listen as much as you speak? Do you seek solutions instead of blame? The best age to marry is when you are emotionally strong enough to handle conflict with wisdom, when you are mature enough to prioritize peace over ego. Parents and families often play a role in deciding when someone should marry. While their advice is valuable, remember that the journey is yours. You will live with the spouse, not them. Do not marry just to please others or to silence their words. Marry when you know in your heart that you are ready, when you have prayed for guidance, and when you feel content with your choice. The best age to marry is when your decision is not based on pressure but on clarity and trust in Allah. There is also wisdom in the way marriage protects society. When individuals marry at the right time, when they channel their love and affection into a halal bond, they protect not only themselves but the community as a whole. Immorality decreases, dignity is preserved, children are raised in stable homes and families are strengthened. The best age to marry is when you are ready to contribute to this protection, when your marriage becomes a shield, not only for yourself but also for the society around you. Think of the generations to come. Marriage is not just about you and your spouse. It is about the children you may raise, the values you may pass on, the legacy you may leave. The best age to marry is when you are ready to think beyond yourself, when you are prepared to nurture not only a partner but also future generations, when you can envision a home filled with remembrance of Allah, respect and love. Sometimes the journey to marriage is filled with delays and disappointments. Proposals may come and go, opportunities may slip away, hearts may break. But each delay carries wisdom. Perhaps the person was not right for you. Perhaps you were not yet ready. Perhaps Allah was protecting you from harm. The best age to marry is when Allah finally opens the door, when He writes it in your destiny, when He aligns your readiness with the right person. Trust His timing. Do not let fear control you. Some fear commitment, some fear responsibility, some fear losing freedom. But remember, everything in life requires commitment and responsibility. Work requires it, studies require it, faith requires it. Why then should marriage be avoided out of fear? The best age to marry is when you decide to face your fears, when you trust Allah enough to step forward despite your uncertainties. It is also crucial to guard against unrealistic standards. In today's world, social media show us glamorous weddings, flawless couples, and filtered love stories. People begin to think, I must have this kind of spouse, this kind of lifestyle, this kind of wedding. These illusions create delays and disappointments. Real marriage is not about filters. It is about reality. It is about loyalty, patience, and effort. The best age to marry is when you let go of illusions and embrace reality, when you are content with sincerity instead of perfection. Finally, reflect on how marriage completes faith. Alone, you may struggle with desires, with loneliness, with distractions. But marriage provides a partner who reminds you of your purpose, who encourages you in prayer, who supports you in fasting, who shares with you the journey to paradise. The best age to marry is when you realize that marriage is not just for this world but for the next, when you see it as a means of reaching Jannah together. When the third part ended, we were reminded that marriage is not just for this world, but for the next, and that its ultimate purpose is to help us reach paradise together. This thought alone should change the way we view the best time to marry. If marriage is a pathway to eternal success, then the timing must not be seen only in terms of worldly convenience. It must be seen as part of a greater plan, a divine calling that aligns with your journey toward Allah. The best age to get married is not about when you feel society will applaud your choice, but when you know in your heart that this step will bring you closer to your Creator. Think about the people who waited until everything was perfect, until the house was bought, the car was ready, the bank account was full, yet perfection never came. Life kept throwing trials at them, and their dream of a perfect start remained only a dream. Then think of those who married with little, but they had sincerity, they had reliance on Allah, and they had the determination to support one another. Over time, they built what others were still waiting for. Their secret was not wealth, but readiness of the heart. The best age to marry is when you are ready to build from scratch, knowing that barakah will come not from material possessions, but from faith and effort. There are also those who delayed marriage because they feared responsibility. They said, I want to be free a little longer, but freedom without purpose becomes emptiness. True freedom comes when you align yourself with responsibility, when you use your choices for goodness, when you dedicate yourself to a relationship that brings peace instead of loneliness. Marriage does not imprison you. It frees you from distractions that waste your soul. The best age to marry is when you recognize that responsibility is not a burden, but a path to growth. Another common obstacle is the influence of culture. In some cultures, people are pressured to marry very early, sometimes before they even understand what marriage means. This can cause hardship if maturity has not yet developed. In other cultures, the pressure is the opposite. They tell you to wait and wait until every worldly achievement is secured. This delay can expose a person to temptation and weaken their resolve. Neither extreme is correct. The best age is not dictated by culture, but by readiness, wisdom, and faith. It is important also to recognize that readiness is not the same for everyone. One person may be ready at 20, another at 28, another at 35. Each soul has its journey. What matters is that when the moment comes, you are prepared to step into marriage with sincerity. Do not compare yourself with others. Their timing is not yours. Your story is written differently, and your chapter of marriage will open exactly when Allah wills it. When that chapter does open, remember that marriage is a test. Some enter marriage thinking it will always be easy, that love will solve every problem, that happiness will flow without interruption. But every blessing comes with trials. Marriage tests your patience when disagreements arise, your generosity when finances are tight, your kindness when tempers flare, and your forgiveness when mistakes are made. The best age to marry is when you are strong enough to see these tests not as reasons to quit, but as opportunities to grow closer together and closer to Allah. Marriage also requires gratitude. Many forget to thank Allah for the blessing of a spouse. They focus only on what their partner lacks, not on what they provide. They see flaws but ignore sacrifices. Gratitude transforms a marriage. It makes small efforts feel big. It makes weaknesses bearable, and it fills the home with contentment. The best age to marry is when you have trained your heart to be grateful, when you are ready to focus on blessings instead of shortcomings. The reality of life is that temptations are everywhere. Without marriage, a person may find it harder to lower their gaze, to protect their heart, and to remain steadfast. Marriage provides a halal outlet, a safe space, and a shield against sin. That is why delaying marriage unnecessarily can be dangerous. The best age to marry is when you feel the need for this protection, when you realize that your faith will be safeguarded by having a spouse who shares your values and helps you stay away from what displeases Allah. There is another wisdom in marriage. It humbles the ego. Living alone, one can easily fall into arrogance, thinking they are always right, always in control. Marriage teaches you to compromise, to apologize, to put another's needs above your own. This humility refines your soul and prepares you for the ultimate humility before Allah. The best age to marry is when you are ready to tame your ego, when you no longer seek to dominate, but to cooperate. Children are another blessing tied to marriage. They are not guaranteed, but when Allah blesses you with them, they become your legacy. Raising children in faith with values of kindness and respect is one of the greatest acts of worship. But children require sacrifice, patience, and responsibility. The best age to marry is when you are prepared for this possibility, when you are willing to give your time, your energy, and your heart to nurture future generations. Marriage also offers companionship in old age. Youth passes quickly, health fades, and the body weakens. But with a spouse by your side, the journey becomes easier. Together, you face illness, loss, and aging with dignity and support. The best age to marry is when you can look beyond the excitement of youth and see the value of growing old with someone who will hold your hand until your final breath. It is important not to confuse material readiness with spiritual readiness. Some people think, I cannot marry because I am not rich. But wealth does not guarantee happiness. Many wealthy marriages collapse because there is no faith, no respect, no kindness. Others with little wealth thrive because their hearts are filled with love and their homes are filled with barakah. The best age to marry is when you trust that Allah is the provider, when you are willing to strive and work, knowing that sustenance is in His hands. Another sign of readiness is emotional control. In marriage, words matter. A single harsh word can wound deeply. A single kind word can heal completely. The best age to marry is when you can control your tongue, when you can speak with gentleness, when you can calm your anger instead of fueling it. If you have learned to manage your emotions with wisdom, you are ready for marriage regardless of your age. Do not let the fear of failure stop you. Some people avoid marriage because they have seen broken homes or failed relationships around them. They say, what if it happens to me? But fear cannot guide your life. Every blessing carries risk, but without risk you gain nothing. The best age to marry is when you are brave enough to try, when you trust Allah enough to step forward, even if the outcome is uncertain. Success comes not from fearlessness, but from faith. There is also wisdom in dua. Before marriage, pray sincerely. Ask Allah to guide you to the right person at the right time. Ask Him to grant you a spouse who will be a garment for you, covering your faults and protecting your dignity. Ask Him to open the door when you are ready and to close the door when it is not good for you. The best age to marry is the age when you are making these du'as consistently, when your heart is connected to Allah in the decision. Think about how marriage changes your daily life. Alone, you may neglect small acts of worship, but with a spouse, you remind each other. One wakes the other for Fajr. One encourages the other to give charity. One supports the other during hardship. Marriage makes worship easier because you share it. The best age to marry is when you see your spouse not just as a partner in this world, but as a partner in worship, someone who walks with you on the path to Jannah. And finally, marriage is a mercy. Allah describes it as a source of tranquility, love, and compassion. These qualities are gifts that cannot be bought, only granted. The best age to marry is when you are ready to receive this mercy, when you are ready to embody it, and when you are prepared to let your marriage be a reflection of divine love on earth